Last week we learned that Amazon, after acquiring the full rights and creative control of James Bond over from the Broccoli's, decided to appoint Amy Pascal and David Heyman as the producers of the James Bond franchise on Amazon. And I thought that this is very interesting because on one hand, one of these people are wildly celebrated as a great producer and the other is wildly celebrated as one of the worst producers in the entertainment industry. And I just wanted to take a second to talk about that because I don't think it's necessarily true. For those of you who don't know, Amy Pascal is known for doing all of the Spider-Man-less stuff. And what I mean by that is like the Venom, the Craven, Madam Web, the Into the Spider-Verse. She also produced Spider-Man, Homecoming, and a bunch of other Spider-Man related projects and kind of helped get the Sony version of the Spider-Man universe that doesn't have a Spider-Man in it off the ground. And a lot of people give her a lot of criticism for that, and rightfully so. She has not done a very good job at getting that off the ground in a successful way. Now, mind you, a lot of people do like the Venom films, but a lot of critics do not, and everything else that she's done is wildly considered actually some of the worst movies ever made. Not even just in the Spider-Man universe, I'm talking in general. But David Heyman, on the other hand, is known for producing the Paddington films, which is considered some of the best films of all time, and the Harry Potter films, the original ones. He is the producer of those movies, and that's considered one of the most successful universes in cinema history. So it's really interesting that Amazon reached out to them to spearhead the ship of the most iconic spy of all time. Now, on one hand, I feel very comfortable and confident in David Heyman to bring James Bond across the finish line and give us a successful project. But Amy Pascal, I really had to think about for a second because I was like, why get her? Like, they clearly know that she put out some awful movies under the Sony Spider-Man universe. So why get her? So I did a little bit of research, and to me, Amy Pascal is kind of like Kathleen Kennedy, where Kathleen Kennedy is not good when it comes to Star Wars. She has no idea what she's doing, and she's trying to hire people that claim they know what makes Star Wars work to come in and make these movies, and then halfway through the project, when she sees that they're nothing like what George Lucas and Steven Spielberg do, she cans them because she believes that she needs to stick close to George Lucas's vision. That's what made Star Wars work. Whereas what you don't understand, Kathleen Kennedy, is over time, things need to adapt. They need to evolve and become better versions of themselves, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, and you can't capture the magic over and over and over if you just keep giving us more of the same, which is essentially what she's trying to do in Star Wars. And it's the same thing with Amy Pascal. When she's doing Spider-Man stuff, she clearly has no idea what she's doing. She's not a comic book fan. She's not a Spider-Man fan. She's just a producer and wants to make the company that she works for a lot of money. But when Amy Pascal is off doing things that she's passionate about, we get things like Ghostbusters, Molly's Game, which was an incredible movie with Jessica Chastain, The Post, The Girl in the Spider's Web, Oscar-nominated Little Women, and Oscar-nominated Challengers with Zendaya. Needless to say, she is good at producing films that don't require her to have a comic book background, just like Kathleen Kennedy is good at producing films that have nothing to do with Star Wars. Steven Spielberg said that Kathleen Kennedy is the greatest producer of all time, and she is the greatest at her job of helping bring a picture to realization, helping to get the director everything they need to make this movie happen. And Amy Pascal seems like she is that too, but what she also has an upper hand in is working with IP. Now, she doesn't do it well, but that's where David Heyman comes in. Let David Heyman be the creative of the entire thing, help make the creative decisions, like who gets hired to make these projects in the James Bond universe. And Amy Pascal could do what she does best, and that's just getting the right resources, the funding, and everything else that's needed to bring this James Bond universe to, like I said, the finish line. And together as a team, Amazon is clearly looking at it like they are a match made in heaven and could successfully steer the ship that is James Bond. So as much as I'm reluctant to be completely confident in the fact that Amy Pascal is now running James Bond, or at least in talks to do it, I have a lot more confidence knowing that David Heyman is there to kind of be her partner and make the decisions that Amy Pascal usually is not capable of doing with big IPs like this. But yeah, so at the end of the day, I think that this is really exciting. David Heyman knows how to produce really well-made, popular, big budget, big blockbuster, $200 million project films. And Amy knows how to get a team together. And I think that this is actually a really good thing. I think that we're in safe hands with us James Bond fans with these two people at the helm producing. I don't think that there's anything to worry about. I think if you look into Amy Pascal's history outside of the Spider-Man films and the Spider-Man adjacent films, you'll see that she has a lot of success at everything else that isn't IP. And again, she's not handling the creative aspect here. That is David Heyman's part. Think of it like James Gunn and Peter Safran. Peter Safran is the producer of the entirety of the DCU, but he's not making creative decisions. He's getting scripts together. He's getting funding for scripts and funding for budgets, and he's getting funding for actors. And James Gunn's the one who is the diehard comic book fan that knows how these characters work, that is making the creative decisions. He's helping make the stories, set the tone of everything, whereas in Safran is just doing the business side of it. That's essentially what Amy Pascal is doing here, whereas in David Heyman is more or less the James Gunn role of this whole James Bond universe. So I don't think there's anything to worry about. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Are you worried about this team spearheading James Bond on Amazon? If you are, let's talk about it down below. Maybe I gave you a reason to think one way or the other. Maybe I changed your mind and got you more comfortable with the idea. If I have, let's talk about it. And as always, I hope you have a great rest of your week, guys, and I'll catch you next time.